Manifesting.
Manifesting 7 reasons why your relationship might be holding you back. Part 2.
We've already covered 4 of the major reasons in the last episode. And today we're wrapping it up with the final 3. Disconnected spirituality or values, unresolved past traumas, and focusing on external validation. And of course, we'll be giving you practical steps to overcome these challenges and stay thriving in your love life.
Welcome to Loving Beyond the I Do podcast. This power couple is building stronger marriages one day at a time. Talking about real issues on love, relationships, and marriage longevity. Let's break down the barriers and engage in healthy conversation with your hosts, Jason and Tina Marie. Take a seat and buckle up because things are about to get real.
Hey, welcome to the show.
Welcome back, everybody. Welcome to another Friday.
Yeah. Welcome to another episode of Loving Beyond the I Do podcast. We are your hosts, Jason and Tina Marie.
That's me.
And we're here to inspire and empower individuals with actionable strategies and insights for developing meaningful and fulfilling relationships using universal principles, effective communication, and mindset shifts.
Using the Manifest framework. Mindset, awareness, nurture, intention, focus, empower, strengthen, and transform.
YouTube.
All
right. We're discussing reasons 5 through 7 why your relationship might be holding you back.
That's right. So, last week we discussed how love and relationships should elevate you, not keep you, which can be watched on our YouTube channel at Legendary Relationship. However, today we're going to break down the final 3 reasons. But before we do, if you haven't grabbed your book, I just have one question for you. What are you waiting for? Go to manifestajoyfillrelationship.com to get your copy.
Start transforming yourself and your relationship today. All right.
We just keep talking.
We're just having so much fun in the
right.
studio. And hey, we want to say thank you to all of our community who's purchased the book. So if you could just let us know that you purchased the book, got a heart or fire emojis or something like that.
In the comment section.
In the comment section, we just want to say thank you, and thank you.
Give us some dun. All right. Thank you, and thank you some more. Make sure you drop the hearts, drop the fire if you have already gotten your book, right? We want to recognize you and call you out. So the remaining 3 reasons will be related to, so I told you guys this is going to be related to chapter 5, 6, and 7 of Manifest a Joy-Filled Relationship.
Yep.
All right? So that's chapter 5, 6, and 7. So I'm giving you a second to go get your book, or you should have had it because you knew you were coming on.
Ooh.
All right, that is the law of cause and effect, the law of attraction, and the law of compensation. So we hope you guys are ready to get into this week's conversation, to engage in the conversation with deeper insights from the book, with questions, responses, suggestions, what has happened to you. So let's get ready to rumble in the jungle of relationships.
Come
but
on
first,
with it.
let the audience know where they can connect with us.
You can connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Pinterest, and LinkedIn at Legendary Relationship. You can also listen to our podcast, Loving Beyond the I Do, wherever you get your podcasts delivered. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeart Podcasts, or YouTube. Or go to our website, legendaryrelationship.com, and click on Podcasts. Welcome back. I have the special honor to introduce our special guest, Mrs. Lisa Saunders, founding member and president of Singleversity.
NFP. All right.
So let's bring Lisa in.
Let's bring Lisa in. And normally, Lisa.
Welcome back.
Hey, can you hear the music?
Okay, I love the intro song. I'm like, yeah.
Can you feel it? Hey, can you feel it? Woo! All right, let's give Lisa a little doom 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 too. Let's give it a little. All right. All right, so Lisa, I decided I'm not going to read your bio, and I was supposed to let you know that. But what I want you to do is I want you to tell us a little bit about you.
So a little bit about me. Let's say I was born and raised in Chicago, Chi-Town, Southside, 12 Deuce. Also went to school with Miss Tina. We've been knowing each other since 2nd grade. You guys got me all right? All right. All right, been knowing each other since 2nd grade, but grew up together. But since then, I've evolved into a mom. I've evolved into a grandma. I'm also a poet. Y'all doing something else, but I'm.
Yeah, keep talking. You know, we got things behind the scenes, baby.
It's all right, girl. It's all right. Yes, but also a poet, also entrepreneur. And I mean, I really love the Lord. So when it comes to Singleversity, I was divorced a good 5 years ago now. Wow, it seems like time just flew past, but I've been divorced 5 years ago. Yeah, 5 years. Wow. And so once I divorced, I was married for like 26 years. So that's like most of my adult life. And so when I became single, I was like, how do I do this? How do I do this? You know, and so I had to reinvent myself. I had to, first of all, get to know myself as an individual. And so when I did that, I've since moved to Zanesville, Ohio. My career brought me here and joined a ministry, a fantastic ministry, North Terrace Church of Christ. And they have a class called Rooted. And so through that Rooted class, it gave you that time to really get into God and get to know yourself, know your purpose, etc. And so Singleversity was born as a result of going through that class. And so what it did was I pretty much shared the good news, the message of Jesus Christ, but as a single individual, you know, really thriving. And since I moved here, and you guys can attest to it, since I moved here, it's like I've just been thriving. It's like year after year, all the things that I thought that I couldn't do in my previous life, I am now doing, and it's just like rapid fire. It's almost like time has been redeemed and I'm catching up. But anyway, Singleversity started as a singles ministry, and it still is, but now it's evolving to really embrace the individual. So the single individual and their relationship with God, and long as, you know, making sure that they're actually thriving as individuals by getting to know themselves as well as getting to know God. And then you can come into that relationship with that other person and just really start to thrive. So it's a whole bunch that goes into that, but I think that's about the best I can sum it up. So let me be still and y'all go ahead.
All right, no, that's great. That's great. So we just, now that we know about you, we're just going to get straight into tonight's show to give you more of an opportunity to talk. So
yes.
one second.
No hold music.
We have a comment from Dot saying, "Good evening, Jason, Tina, and Lisa."
Good evening,
good
Dot.
evening.
Thank you for joining
Yeah.
us.
Yes.
And Miss Shirley Allen saying, "Good evening, my dear Jason and Tina."
All right.
Hello.
Auntie, how are you? Love you.
Any hearts, any drops, any comments? Can you see those? Any comments so we can shout those people out who already have their book? We'll get back to you. All right, so let's get into tonight's first reason, number 5. And that is disconnected spirituality or values.
Yes.
Which is associated with the law of cause and effect.
Come on.
So let's get right into reason number 5, as I stated, which is disconnected spirituality or values, right? Which is associated with the law of cause and effect, chapter 5. You might say how, but just hold on. Now, this is a big one, right? That many couples struggle with. And it can cause significant tension if it's not addressed.
Ooh, we don't want no tension in our relationships. No.
I don't want no tension, no.
Absolutely. Spiritual beliefs and our core values shape our decisions, our worldview, and ultimately how we connect with our partner. If you and your partner are misaligned in these areas, you can feel like you're speaking 2 different languages. And you know what happens when that is.
Yep. nobody's understanding what's going on. So before we go into how this ties directly into the law of cause and effect, which is chapter 5 of the book, so you guys can go scan and get a little bit of chapter 5. Lisa, let's hear from you what your thoughts are on disconnected spirituality or values in a relationship.
Yeah, I can definitely identify it with that. Like I said, just from being divorced, and like I shared last week, when I got married, we were young. And me personally, I really didn't know who I was when I got into the relationship. I just know that I wanted to be married. Okay. So this guy, he came along, took on, my daughter and myself, and, really loved us, to that degree. But as we began to grow and mature, and became, who we are today, or, became adults, and the more you learn, the more you grow, etc. There was a disconnect. We were growing at different rates. Jason, you talked about speaking different languages. It often sounded like we were talking different languages, and even if we were on the same page, we got so unaligned or misaligned, that we could not see eye to eye. So the tension grew, the mistrust grew. Of course,
Tower of Babel, huh? The Tower of Babel.
Yeah, so it was just like, so it went something like this. He would say, the sky is blue. And I'll say, wow, the sky is the color of the ocean. And we would. What do you mean?
Go ahead, Lisa. You say what?
Like, what do you mean? What do you mean the sky is the color of the ocean? It's blue. I said it's blue. So but that's how it seems when you get that misaligned, and you're talking different languages, and you're not seeing eye to eye. You don't have trust with one another. There's tension, jealousy creeps in. Then you're competing, trying to see who could speak the loudest and get their point across the fastest, or whatever the case may be. So like I said, I know that can definitely affect a relationship, and unfortunately it did, to the degree where eventually I really got fed up, and that was because of the way that I evolved, and it came into my own, and unfortunately my heart got hard, and I requested a divorce.
I know. And so I'm glad you shared that again. Let me thank you for coming back. This is part 2 for you guys who may be just now tuning in. This is part 2. Lisa joined us last week with the first 4 reasons. And if you missed it, please go watch it on YouTube at Legendary Relationship. And so she was nice enough to grace us again with her presence this week. So if you guys, I want you, this is a live because we want you to engage in the conversation. So please put your experiences with what we're talking about. We can shout them out, okay? We can talk about them. That's what this community is for. If you have a comment or question for Lisa, if she feels as though it's okay for her to answer it, she will, right? Please put your questions, your comments, your concerns.
Show her some love.
Insights. Show her some love. Whatever it is, please engage so that we can. It's like we're all in this conversation together. So again, we cannot see your names unless you comment. So if you want us to shout you out and welcome you to the Friday Night Live, please make sure you drop your name in the comments section. So now we're going to get into the law of cause and effect and how it connects. So the law of cause and effect is one of our universal laws that we do cover in our book, right? And we said it was chapter what? 5. So it reminds us that every action we take has a consequence. So if you're not connected with your values and your spirituality practices, the relationship will reflect those imbalances. The effect of neglecting spiritual growth can cause disconnection, right? Resentment, as Lisa just stated, and an unfulfilled relationship. Right? And so that can just be one area. But by recognizing the cause of the imbalance, you can make a difference, right? You can change it. You can be more intentional. You can make more intentional choices that align with your spiritual truth and your partner. It just made me laugh because Lisa was like, oh, the sky is blue. Okay, same color as the ocean. You're like, what?
Oh, no.
And so spirituality can be, or your values. So that's just one of those areas that really can, where your relationship is holding you back.
Man, that's something. Never thought of it that way. Blue is blue, right? So... Well, we've seen this firsthand. Oh, hold on one second before we get into that.
We have a comment.
Okay, we have Don Weber saying, hey, y'all.
Hey, Don, how are
Don.
you? Welcome to the party.
That's right. Welcome to the party.
Hey, Dennis.
All right.
Yes.
Dennis saying happy Friday, everyone.
All right.
Happy Friday,
Hey,
Dennis.
happy
Y'all
Friday.
know.
Happy Friday.
All right.
Jones
Hey,
Ice
Dennis.
Sisters and my brother, Mr. Jason Scott.
All
I'm
right.
in it to win.
Yeah.
That's right.
right.
You knew it.
Jones.
And Don Weber is saying jealousy amongst spouses is deep.
Oh,
Oh,
Okay.
baby. That's just a brand new, that's just a whole new
Now,
revelation.
you saying something there, okay?
You be
feel like you're
surprised.
sleeping with the enemy. You know,
You-
unfortunately, that is you feel like you're sleeping with the enemy.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, that's something. You know
Yeah.
what? We've seen that firsthand in couples, that we've coached. One partner may prioritize spiritual growth while the other one is indifferent.
Right.
So and it creates a problem. Or maybe, one or both believe in something, but they just don't know how to or they express it differently. So it's always, a problem. I mean, like spirituality is something that is sometimes divided in amongst couples.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
so, guys, just because we're talking about spirituality, because this is a very big area, please feel free to share.
Yeah.
Please share, because as I always say, you never know what you're going through or have gone through, that you can help someone else that may be in that area right now. Please stay positive, only positive comments, only positivity, only good vibes. And if you can't do that, this is not the station for you. But thank you anyway. All right. So that's why it's so important, as Lisa said, to stay actively aligned, or at least to learn to understand excuse me, to understand each other's spirituality and values and respect them. Just because they're different doesn't mean we can't respect the person that it is. So, Lisa, tell us, I'm going to let you take the floor right now and tell us the importance of, and the audience, feel free to join in, your take on being aligned spirituality, being aligned with your values, just being on the same page, and maybe share some instances or
Being aligned like
some
now.
insight and techniques that maybe you used or experiences that you've had that you can give suggestions.
Yeah, I mean, based on the experience that I had coming out of divorce, and again, getting to know myself and where I desired to be spiritually, when I met my now husband, that was one of the key things actually that we both had in our relationship, that spirituality or your relationship with God had to be first and priority. So knowing that we were aligned in that area, having that conversation, making that, that's a non-negotiable for us, so when we came together, it was just like if we had a list, we were checking it, oh my goodness, oh, same thing. So knowing that you're aligned from the beginning, versus trying to find out later after the proposal is made and you got a ring on your finger. Now you find out 2 days before going to the altar, after a day of counseling, that you don't even align. You don't even align. You don't even have the same spiritual values. So I'd say definitely having that conversation, making that part of your dating, or if as a couple, if you're already a couple and you're already married, making sure that you're checking in, periodically to say, hey, where are you, in this place? Hey, because there's different levels of spirituality. So making sure you're growing at a similar rate. And if not, let's come together and still keep that conversation going. I think communication is definitely key in all of this.
So
Now, I want to touch on one thing here. So, because I want to bring it fast forward. I know we talked about the experience you went through with the divorce, but now you've remarried, right?
Yes.
Now, going through that experience, right?
Yes.
Was spirituality important to you? I know the answer, but was it important to you?
Yes. Oh, yes. It was definitely important. It was definitely important to me. Actually, one of the key reasons that I wanted the divorce, or that I asked for the divorce, was because of the spiritual misalignment, and I honestly just wanted to be free and walking out my faith. And I felt like I was being hindered, and again, that's based upon the growth, and the maturity levels that we had endured over time. And so it just became really important to me to be able to act out my faith without no holds barred. I wanted to do it, walk by faith, not by sight, and execute. I didn't want to have to ask somebody if it was okay to do it. As it was given to me, I wanted to do it. And so part of that, disconnect led to the divorce. And so my life as a single person, living that out, and seeing how I could manifest, seeing how I could speak, put forth action and manifest what it is that I wanted, and seeing it come to pass. That was priority because I was walking in freedom. So so when I met my husband, that was first and foremost. That was like one of the first things we talked about when we sat down at the table. Hi, how are you? I'm great. Do you love the Lord? Yes.
Excuse me?
Right.
What? Like,
Where are you? Where are you in your relationship? Is this just I love the Lord today because you're in front of me right now? But what does that look like? And he could expound on that. And it wasn't just, I go to church sometime. He told me where he was, but his spiritual level, where he was talking was so in alignment with where I was. He was a man that walked by faith and not by sight, and he trusted God. He said he didn't believe in hoping, he believed in trusting and doing. So, okay. So he inspires me. And so I said, if you can inspire me, then I believe you could possibly be the one.
All right. Wonderful.
That's what I'm talking about.
All right.
Yeah. So we know in relationship, if your relationship is feeling disconnected because of your spiritual misalignment, start by, opening up and having that conversation, kind of like what Lisa just had. Right. She didn't cut any corners. She just went right for it. You might be surprised at how deep your connection can be and how you guys can truly understand each other.
Yeah.
All right, that's right. So thank you for sharing with us, Lisa. So before we move on to the next point, what you just said is great, but if you could give maybe 2 suggestions. So if someone is in a relationship right now and they're not spiritually aligned or their values are not aligned, just give 2 suggestions from your past experience that maybe they could move in that direction. And guys, this isn't a one size fits all. It's just that she's just sharing her experience and then giving some suggestions. So Lisa, what are some suggestions you could offer?
I would say, first of all, don't ignore it. Don't ignore the fact that you're feeling that misalignment. Don't just brush it under the rug. First of all, identify it. And then, like I said, number 2, really have that conversation. Say, hey, I'm starting to feel the difference, or I'm starting to feel this type of pull. I'm starting to feel this imbalance. Something isn't gelling anymore. Don't be afraid to have that conversation, because the longer you put that off, I'm a firm believer that the longer you put something off, if you don't deal with it, it will eventually deal with you. It'll show up and it'll start dealing with you, and if you still ignore it, it'll start dealing with the other person, because now it's agitating you to the degree where there's some obvious, vibration, that's starting to happen. It could be an earthquake soon if you don't.
and which goes back to the law of cause and effect, right? The things that's causing the effects that we're having.
Yes.
All right. So let's get into reason number 6.
Let's get some comments here.
All right.
Dennis is saying, preach, Lisa. I had to find out years later that I wasn't not only not spiritually connected to my last relationship, but I wasn't truly connected mentally or even really friends. But as a great learning experience, I now know that I have to develop a spiritual relationship and mental, emotional connection first before anything else.
Wow. That's awesome.
Wow.
That's deep. Thank you for sharing that.
Yes. Thank you, Dennis. Thank you. And that's what, guys, we cannot change what we're not willing to face. And it's okay. Oftentimes we are so concerned about what someone else thinks, but they may be going through the same thing, but they're just too, we're just too prideful to share it. This is what relationships are all about. If I can share with you and you can share with me and we can share with others, maybe we can get through this thing called marriage and relationships. Yeah. All right.
Any more?
Dawn, can you speak to the complexities between spirituality and religion, and how do you navigate those conversations?
That's good.
We'll defer to you, Lisa.
Is that for all of us? Oh, that's for me? Yep. Throw the ball all the way to Zanesville. It's good. That is an excellent question. One of the first things that came to mind as I was reading that question was definitely knowing God for yourself, knowing where you are spiritually for yourself. there's one thing to go to church and get involved in religion, and what a lot of people get messed up or mixed up with is they compare their relationship with God to their relationship with their pastor or to their spiritual leader. And so whatever the spiritual leader does, that's what they believe. That's what they, and they don't go any further. They don't dig in for themselves. But you have to take whatever religion you're in. You have to take that thing personally into the heart and really dedicate yourself. For me, I'm Christian and I believe in the word of God, basing my life on the word of God. So I had to separate myself from what I was doing in church, because I was a church leader, I was a church administrator, I was deaconess, I was doing it all, but I had to come to a place of balancing that out, and that took some time of pulling back, talking to my leader, saying, hey, this is what's going on. I really need to get into a place and get in tune with myself as well, with God, and knowing what those values are, knowing where your values line up with what it is that you're doing as far as religion is concerned. But if you don't know God for yourself, this is the key thing. If you don't know God for yourself, it'll be very hard to come into a spiritual alignment with where you're going. Because if you're comparing your spirituality based on somebody else's relationship or based upon what they say, and that's it, that's all, you'll definitely get into a place of imbalance. And I've been there, I've done that. And so that's something that I had to do. I really had to pull back. I had to lay my gift down at the altar and come back to a place of prayer, fasting, meditating on the word of God and making sure that I'm in alignment with that. And then coming back to the table saying, hey, to my spouse at that time, saying, hey, this is where I am. What do you think about that? And again, it was, sometimes we would come together, and then most times it was just too much teeter-tottering. With my relationship now, I've been in that place in the beginning of our relationship. Tina knows, Jason knows, that we got married within a 10-week time span from the time that we met. But we were so in alignment, even when I got to a place where, hey, something's not right. This is what the Lord said. And he said, well, you know what? If the Lord said it, then that's what it is. And that's just how in sync we are. And the same thing with him. If he says, I'm feeling that God is saying this, then I respect that. Well, if God said that, then that's what it is. And it's not something where I'm doubting or I'm reluctantly agreeing, but it's just so in alignment, that it's there. And so to strive towards that, again, learning from the previous relationship and where I know that I was and where I wanted to be and where I wanted to go spiritually, having that alignment with my current spouse is making it more fantastic for me.
And so thank you, Lisa. So, and if anyone else wants to add any comments, feel welcome. But agreeing with Lisa, but also spirituality, right? Religion is one thing, right? Religion is something totally different than your spirituality. And so I would say take the time for you to grow as a person, which means through prayer, through meditation, through sitting in the silence to hear God, strengthening your relationship with God. As Lisa said, not just knowing God. Oh, I know God. Hey, he knows me. I call him when I need him, and when I don't, I don't ring his number. Right? That's not the type of God we're talking about. We're talking about a spirituality where God is present in your life every moment of the day, where you realize who and what you are. And when you do that, you move differently. Oftentimes in the church setting, we are following the pastor, the minister, the father, whatever the title is. And so their beliefs are becoming our beliefs, and sometimes we lose ourselves, and so we're not growing spiritually. The whole point of spirituality is for you to come into your own, to realize that you are a child of the living God, and to know who you are. So your spirituality, your growth depends on your relationship with God, not depending on man. And of course, we're supposed to be guided and led, but you have to take the time to know what that means to you. And therefore, if you're not sure, how can you possibly be in alignment with another person? Which means that if you come into a relationship and maybe they are more aware of their spirituality, then you should either take the time to, hey, let's help me grow in this area, or, figure out what it is that you need to do to become the person that you need to be in this relationship. So definitely if God should be at the center of everyone's life. That's the head of your life. And even though we don't try to get into spirituality and religion, it is important. God should be the moving force in your life. And if it's not, then if it or he or she or Allah or whatever you want to call them, if they're not, then your relationship doesn't have the foundation to move forward. Because oftentimes what people do is they only know God when they're falling on their knees saying, God, help me. You know, God, if you do this for me now, I'm going to promise I'll do this, or I'll promise I'll do that, or I won't do this anymore. And that's not a relationship with God. That's looking at God as, hey, whenever I need you, I'm going to remember you're there, but as long as things are going good, you're not in my life. So that's not a spiritual relationship. That's not your spirituality growing and recognizing who and what you are. Take the time to pray. Take the time to meditate. A lot of people say, well, I can't meditate because my mind is going all crazy. When you take that time, sometimes it just means sitting down. You can be in a car and meditate. Meditation means that you are allowing yourself to be disconnected from the world around you. Have you ever found yourself driving and you're just driving and your mind is going different places? Like you're just focused on one thing and then you end up, you're someplace where you're supposed to be? That could be a form of meditation. So meditation is you just being able to commune with God, right? To be able to focus on an aspect of God and to know that God is speaking to you. That's strengthening your relationship. And then when we sit still and we just quiet our mind, right? Then we know that God cannot speak through the noise. He will not, she will not, it will not, they will not. Whatever pronoun you want to give God, God can't speak through a noise. Like he's not going to scream through the chaos. So we have to be able to sit still and know when God is speaking to us. And oftentimes, you know, your awareness, your consciousness has grown because you can tell when it's your ego and when it's God. You can tell when you're trying to be right instead of trying to be happy.
You're forcing the issue.
And so I hope I'm not getting off subject here, but just, you know, that takes you growing in that area and then making sure that what's your values, right? What's important to you, setting those boundaries and abiding by them and making sure that your mate or partner understands and respect those boundaries.
We got any comments?
Jason, you want to wrap it up with your preaching?
Dawn said, thank you for that. She also says, I agree, Tina. Be still and know that he is God.
Yes. So we, you know, so many times we want to be God. We really do want to be God. We want things to happen when we want to happen. And the reason why it can't is because we're not ready.
That's right.
All right, let's go ahead and hit on slide number 2.
All right. So getting into the next one. All right. Reason number 6, unresolved past traumas, which is associated with the law of attraction.
Oh my.
Say that again.
Oh my.
Right? What you say, Lisa?
I said, oh my.
Right?
Oh my.
So unresolved past traumas, which is associated with the law of attraction. Again, you may say the law of attraction. What are you talking about? Past traumas and the law of attraction. Baby, we got some learning to do. So this is another tough one, but it is so important to talk about. When we're talking about past traumas, a lot of people don't want to talk about them or we don't want to face them, but they're in our relationships whether we know about it or not.
Yes, because trauma, whether past relationships, childhood, or other experiences, they don't just disappear. It follows you into your current relationship.
That's right.
Shaping how you interact, how you communicate, how you love, or how you don't love.
Absolutely. So I am going to share with you how this aligns with the law of attraction, because what you hold on to internally manifest externally in your relationship. Did y'all get that?
Got it.
What you got inside
Comes out.
So if past traumas are unresolved, they will continue to shape the dynamics of your relationship, which often leads to you repeating the negative pattern, right? The negative patterns of what the trauma brought to you because they haven't been resolved. So the law of attraction teaches that like attracts like.
Yep.
But if you're carrying unresolved trauma, the energy of those unresolved issues will attract more of the same energy in your relationship, and you will not know. So if we don't know what the law of attraction really means in our relationship, here's a clue. When you're pressing stuff down, it hasn't disappeared. You're just not facing it. But because they're unresolved, that energy is emitting out, and you're going to attract that. So, however, by healing past wounds, right? You start to attract more healing energy, leading to a healthier dynamics and a better relationship with your partner and with yourself. This law helps you see how your energy field impacts your whole relationship and emphasizes the importance of healing to manifest a higher quality connection with yourself and your partner. Did you guys get that? To manifest a higher quality connection. Not the same one as Lisa, right? So Lisa, I want you, before Jason goes, I want you to talk about that. Past traumas, healing, not carrying it around, bringing it out, and how did it manifest a higher quality connection for you to have to really manifest a different relationship?
Yeah. So what I like to talk about a little bit with that is you hear a lot of the term of generational curses, or I call it generational trauma as well. Yeah. So say for instance, like in my situation, I know some things about my mom, and she's endured and overcome abusive relationships. She's endured a lot. And so if my mom has never healed from that, but just moved on, right? But never really addressed the trauma or the pain or the disconnect that came with those relationships, it's being passed down to me, the type of mannerisms, and how she dealt with those situations. So, and again, different things. I understand there could be different influences along the way. I'm just talking about my situation here. So the way she responds, the way she moves on, the way she moves on in life and deals with the situation or not, can affect me, because now you're grooming me, based upon unaddressed hurts, unaddressed trauma. Now I can see or even hear about, she went through an abusive relationship, and I'm not going to do that. I'm definitely not going to do that in my life. And that's something that I did. But when I grew older, mind you, because I'm being shaped in trauma that was not addressed, I can have a mindset that, hey, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to get in that type of relationship. But if I don't know what the red flags are to identify that type of behavior, I can end up in the same type of situation. And how I deal with it is based upon the way my mom has groomed me, because her trauma was unaddressed. And so things like that can continue to evolve. So once I got to a place of spirituality where I learned how to identify, certain things, and I also received counseling. I've received therapy as well to help me to identify the root, because a lot of times we're dealing with the branches of things versus the actual root. And that's spiritual talk, and it's natural as well. If you cut down a tree, or if you cut down a weed, if you don't get it from the root, what you're going to turn around and see that weed pop right back up, and it's going to keep on growing until you deal with the root of that weed and even change the soil sometimes. So I ended up in an abusive relationship. That was one of the mistrusts from the previous relationship. And so based upon how my mom dealt with it, what I'm looking at is the positives, that what she made it through, and I just want to be married. And I can get through this. And now that I have the Lord, I can pray through this. I can just pray and it'll be okay. Women get through this all the time, and that's what love is all about. But until I was able to identify it, address it, and again, get to know who I am in God, and knowing that, that's not the type of love that God,
right. We're not,
right.
Yeah,
right.
That's not that. He already, for those who believe in Jesus, he died on the cross for our sins. He took those blows for us, so we don't have to We don't have to continue that walk. So I identified the root cause. I got healing. I got therapy. I had, great friends. Before you guys were legendary relationship, you were legendary before because your relationship was awesome, and just being able to connect with people that either had been healed and addressed it properly, or people that had never dealt with it before, but could minister to the places of hurt. Lisa, this is not the norm. This is not okay. You do have a voice, and getting that therapy to heal. And once I healed, then I was like, oh no, never again. I couldn't continue. I couldn't continue in the same type of behavior. And I have to say that changed in our relationship, that we started out fighting one another. I mean, literally fighting. And then once I came to that place in our relationship, again, we were together 26 years. There came a point where I spoke up, where I said, no, not anymore, because I'm not that same person. And that behavior stopped in our relationship. So it makes a difference.
Whew. Do we have any comments?
Yeah.
Dawn saying trauma bonding in relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And Dennis saying, ooh, my, I have a story to tell. Thank you, Tina and Jason, for helping me to confront my past trauma issues.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Don saying, come on, Lisa, curse breaker.
Yes.
That's
Come on
right.
in.
Chain breaker. That's right.
Yeah.
Vicky Thomas saying, sometimes you don't realize you're acting out of pain of your past.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
What's the best way to accept it when told?
Ooh.
Yeah.
Lisa?
You keep throwing that ball here.
I'm giving you the opportunity because you are our guest and you have a wealth of information.
Oh my goodness.
So
Yes.
come on.
Yes. So the best way to accept it when told. So when you're saying accept it, I just need some clarity in that area before I go forward, because I don't want to take it off skelter. So if we can just get a little bit more clarification of accepting what? Do you mean accepting the fact that you've identified a curse?
So Vicky, we're going to need for you to just expound a
Expound
little
just
bit.
a little bit.
But if I was to, and I hope I'm not speaking out of context or out of turn, but maybe she means that someone tells you, say, hey, the way you're behaving is because of what you saw in your family, and that's not normal. It's like you know what I'm saying? This is you're doing this because of a past trauma that and it's true. And so you say, well, wait a minute, that's not true. So how do you accept it as a person? Because sometimes, as we said, what we do when I was talking about it, we suppress it, or we don't even, as you said, Lisa, we don't even look for the root causes. We go, hey, that was my mother's problem. That was my sister's problem. And that's not me. So we can't even recognize it. And so, as we said, elevation takes honesty, but we have to be like, it's really hard to look in that mirror.
Yep.
Yes,
She said
yes. Yes. Awesome. Yep. So what it took for me to accept it is to realize that nothing was changing. Nothing was changing. So if I remained like I was and rejected the knowledge that I had gotten, I would go back and, like you said, Tina, I would try to suppress it and be like, oh, no, they're off. No, it's got to be something else. And I did go through that with different areas of my life, because you talking about being conditioned for so long a certain kind of way. And now you're in a place of change, and now you got to face the real truth. When you say you want the truth, can you handle the truth for real? You got to be able to handle the truth. So if I didn't change it, and when I didn't change it, it remained the same. But until I got that courage, because of course fear was in there as well. After being for so long, now it's like submission, not to, get into the fight, not to start an argument. But when you eliminate the fear and get beyond the what ifs, and what if he hit me again, or what if we get into an argument, what if it escalates? When you get beyond that what if, you have to value yourself enough to get beyond that what if and get beyond that fear. When you do that, then you can see the cause and effect of the change. So it had gone on so long, and I was just tired. And again, I had evolved into a different person, and I was ready to see change. So I addressed it and said no more. I did something that I didn't do. And you may say, oh my gosh, why? But after so many years, I finally got the courage to actually call the police. And that was even with coercion. Somebody had to tell me to call the police. That's how low I thought of myself. They had to tell me to call the police. And I called the police. And for the first time, he was arrested. And that experience, he didn't want to go to jail anymore. And that's his testimony. I didn't want to go to jail anymore. And that behavior stopped, just from that. But for me, it was a prayer answered. But whatever he was dealing with, again, that's on him after that. But I just know for me, that behavior stopped. So if I had not spoken up, if I had not got beyond the fear, then it probably would have just continued on because I was taking it, well, if this is what love is. Thank you.
All right.
Thank
So I'm going to address you also, Vicki. So Vicki says, how do you accept it, right? So looking at Lisa's experience, she had to address what are the causes that I'm being affected this way. Why do I think it's okay to be hit? Why am I embarrassed to tell someone?
Yes.
Why? And so part of that is that's how you accept it. You say, okay, well, if someone has told me that it's this and I don't want to believe is this, all you have to do is go into the corners of your mind. When I talk about sitting still and say, well, why do I either behave this way? Why do I react this way? Or why do I think that this is okay? Whatever your situation is, whether it's you're doing something that someone did to you and you think it's okay, or you experience it being done to someone else and now it's being done to you. So there's so many different variations. But even with Lisa's ex, his past traumas, right? What was he around that gave him the indication that it was okay?
Yes.
Right? So
and he grew up in an abusive environment as well. So
exactly. So when we unpack the cause and effect,
right?
I was being affected by this because one, and then we talked about the cause and effect. Whereas if you're not healing from it, you're going. Well, not the cause and effect. No, we're talking about the law of attraction.
Okay. Yeah,
so the attraction, right? So you went through past trauma, and what did you attract?
I attracted the person who did the same thing. Yes.
Because you weren't speaking of it, you weren't thinking of it. You said, okay, it happened. I'm going to move on. But your soul was emitting what was really going on. We can't hide from ourselves. Remember we said we can lie to everybody in the world, but you can't lie to yourself.
That's right.
When you lie to yourself, you feel something inside, you go, that's why sometimes people say I'm a bad liar, because they know, right? And so you can lie and say, I'm a loving person, but if you just got through cussing your mate out, you already, you can lie to everybody. It's the hardest thing in the world to lie to yourself. It's the hardest thing. Plus, when you accept it, that means facing it.
Yeah.
So Vicki said, how do you accept it? You have to face it.
Yes.
You have to step up to your, I think it was in 2023, Vicki, when we were doing the podcast, and said, elevation takes honesty, right? You can't change what you don't face.
That's right.
And so it may not even be to the extent of if someone else told you, but it may be in the right area. It might be in the ballpark. So it might take you to unpack, hey, what's really going on?
Yes.
Even as simple as, why do I allow myself to stay in a situation that I know is unhealthy?
Right.
So we're talking about unhealthy relationships and how do we change them? And the thing is that you can't change a person, but you can change yourself. You can become aware of what needs to be done. Now, as Lisa said, when she became aware and she stepped into her true power and she had the courage, even though coercion, to call the police, she knew right then and there, I'm not going back to that.
Yeah.
Right. So that was change. So now you're coming into the awareness. This isn't natural. I'm not going to take it. Enough is enough. Then you become aware. So that person either has to change or you have to move. Now, you must understand, if you're dealing with your trauma and they're not dealing with theirs, baby, as we talked about last week, the battle begins. So it's like you're in a battle and who's going to win the war. And sometimes, and guys, we're not advocating divorce. We're not advocating separation. What we're saying is, let's be aware of the issues in our relationship so that we can say, hey, did you experience any past traumas? And if you did, let's talk about them. Because some people have and they have not dealt with them. But if you've dealt with them and maybe your mate hasn't, or you've dealt with them as Lisa did, she dealt with them, she learned from them, she got to the root causes. Therefore, her next relationship was not the same because her soul on the inside had healed.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right? The awareness. So when we're talking about how do you accept it, you have to face your worst fears. You
Yeah.
have to face it. You know, the truth is the may not always be what you want it to be. We sometimes want to sugarcoat things. All right.
Yeah, let me say something else to that too. Because I touched on generational curses. Is that too? I had 2 girls I was raising, and if once I became aware of that generational curse, I'm like, oh no, the curse stops here. You know, so if I didn't deal with it, now I'm passing along to my children and my children's children, and or you know, having them to deal with it. So that was something I did not want to see my daughters go through, was that type of trauma. So, and I talked to them about it. I shared with them how to identify certain things, you know, and so I taught them what I learned so they wouldn't repeat the same thing. At least that is the trust. That's where the trust in God has to come in at, is that they're hearing what you're saying and they can identify those things. And so, yeah, I didn't want that to repeat itself.
Okay.
Wonderful,
Wow.
wonderful.
Well, that's good. You know, you have to teach. And I just want to take time now to say thank you for being vulnerable, for being honest, for being open,
For being on the show.
for being for being on the show. But man, the gems that you're giving is way more than I had ever imagined. We walked a lot of this walk with you, unbeknown to us.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
yeah, you know, a lot of the stuff is shocking and surprising, just like the viewers here is finding out. But it's different when you're closer and you go back and you play certain things out in your mind and be like, oh, this is this, and like, wow, you know, we were at events and then this would happen, and so you're just playing all these things in your mind. So I just want to thank you for just being courageous and just saying that. I mean, like, you're not the only one that ever has ever gone through this.
Yes.
But you being able to just stand up and speak on it speaks volumes. I mean, like, if anybody can take anything away from it, just know that no matter what you're going through, you can get through it. We have a testimony right here of someone just walking through it. So we just want to say thank you.
All right.
Yeah.
All right,
All right, we got comments. Can we go back to the comments?
Vicky's saying you have to be willing to make a change when you are confronted. Reality check time.
yeah.
Yep.
Don Weber saying, I'm proud of you, Lisa.
So are we.
Yes.
Yes.
Dot saying, I have so much to say, but I have to watch what I say on here.
All
I
right.
understand.
All right.
You know what?
So
You say
Dot,
that too, Dot, because you know what? We're what I'm thinking about is taking this community and going more so offline, so we can have those open conversations
and heal.
and heal.
And
right.
heal.
Right.
And talk about them in an open environment.
Yeah.
Where people are
Right.
looking
Right.
for support.
Right.
All right.
But take what you can.
And make small comments if you like.
Right. But we understand. Just take what you can. And if you want to ask a question, you can always ask for a friend.
Or you make a comment for a friend. Say, I got a friend over here. Their name is blah blah. Or I got a friend and they said this. All right. So
Well,
let's
come on. Go ahead. You got another one.
Reach out to the resources. Yes, all of us. Yes.
Vicky saying, this is Earl. Not facing your issues is like a dog chasing its tail. We're going around and around in circles, but not going nowhere.
Yeah.
That's true, Earl. Thank you so much for
Hey,
chiming
Earl.
in too, Earl.
Yes, welcome, Earl and Vicky. Haven't seen you guys in a while. Welcome to the show. Welcome back.
Yep.
All right.
All right.
Let's go.
All right. So, we worked with so many couples where one. Oh man, hold on.
All right.
All right, so we've worked with so many couples where one or both are unknowingly allowing past hurts to dictate their present actions. Maybe it's fear of abandonment, trust issues, deep-seated self-work struggles. Just you name it. We could just go on and on all the things. I mean, Lisa said quite a few of them. So just know that you can get past that. Your past doesn't define your future, and healing is absolutely possible. But it starts with recognizing the unsolved trauma. It's not something you have to carry along with you any longer.
That's
You
right.
can speak on it. You can get help. You can speak out. A lot of times, I mean, like, as much as we pray about things, if you don't speak about it or if you don't make a change, I don't know if anything's going to happen. You have to have some action behind that prayer.
All right, so let's get into number 7, reason number 7. All right, so let's bring it home, guys.
Yep.
Number 7, focusing on external validation.
Ooh.
This one is associated with the law of compensation.
Interesting.
All right, so we're talking about reason number 7 is focusing on external validation. And then we're going into the law of compensation, which is chapter 7. Ooh. This one is huge. And it's something we see so often in relationships. Many people unknowingly base their happiness, their confidence, and even their sense of self-worth on how their partner or society sees them.
Yep.
Caring about what other people think about you. Boy, you better eat my shoe. Give me a thing. All right. Give me one. All right, so let's go.
You just want to toot your own horn.
Toot my own horn.
Woo, well, that's where the law of compensation comes in. But before we get into that, Lisa, you want to go ahead and jump in?
Oh, sure. I mean, of course, going back to the root, right? So as a kid, not really knowing, who I was, again, went through sexual molestation as a kid. So, part of your identity gets taken away involuntarily, in a way that you can't identify with. So then you become something that you're not. You become, God didn't make us to be just, shy in a hole somewhere, but you become something that you're not, if not in one area, then in many different areas, and, for me, it became a place of coping. So even when I was young, I often tell people that, when I was younger, I didn't think that I was a very attractive person because I was told I was ugly when I was younger. So with what happened with the molestation, I said, well, I may not be that ugly. I may not be that pretty, but, I'm sexy because I can attract a grown man. So it's like I turned it around to work in a way that I could create this positive or this false sense of self, this false sense of confidence as a way of coping. But really it was low self-esteem. It was low self-worth. The way that, it was dealt with, just wasn't the healthiest way for me. But so what happened was, as I grew older and matured, and developed, then I started to hear comments like, "Ooh, you look good. Ooh, you look fine." So those are things that I wasn't used to hearing, so then I'd build on that. "Oh, you think I'm cute? Oh, you think I'm fine? So you must love me," because these are things I didn't hear, so I depended upon that as a way of building my confidence even more, and coupled it with the unhealthiness of, I'm sexy, I can attract, so my sexuality, and how I felt about myself, my esteem it was building up and it was going high. But if you don't have a strong foundation, that stuff gonna come crumbling down, and so again, I was attracting the wrong type of person. I was attracting those that were hurt, because I was emitting a false sense of self. But until I became true to myself, where I got to that place of somebody said, "Hey, you look good, you look fine." Now the response is, "Tell me something I don't know." Tell me something new to inspire me. You know what I'm saying? So,
right.
And again, that didn't come until I became an adult and, really got to know myself and got around people that said, "Hey, you are special. You're a child of God. You hold the power. Don't give it away."
Don't give it away.
So once I learned that, then of course I walked differently. I talked differently. I was able to manifest what I wanted and what I desired and then some, so yeah, that's the way it worked for me.
All right. So before we go into, we're going to talk about the law of compensation. So tell them how this is related to the law of compensation. Then Lisa, I want you to come back and I want you to talk about your relationship now, understanding all of this.
The love and the happiness that you have now.
And how it relates to the relationship of this. So Jason, let's see how it's related to the law of compensation.
All right. So the law of compensation, it applies to this, everything that you said, Lisa, because the universe rewards you based on what you give yourself. If you constantly seek approval from the outside, you're neglecting the most important part of validation, the one that comes from within. You have to validate yourself.
Yes.
Possibly neglecting your own self-worth will lead to unfulfilling relationships in the future. So just like you said, as you were growing up, you got into these relationships based on outside,
Validation.
and then that didn't work out because the relationships didn't work out.
Yeah.
So, okay, when we come back, Lisa, we're going to take a comment. When we come back, just talk about how now you're not seeking outside validation and how that impacted the wonderful relationship you have now.
Yes.
Kelly Dickerson said, I shared my past traumas with my mother and my daughters as a survivor of sexual abuse in the church as a young child. I put myself in counseling and I continued the work well into my adult years. I was determined to break the cycle of past trauma in order for myself to heal, my mother to heal, and my children and their children to be the best versions of themselves.
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much for that,
Thank
Kelly.
you.
Yes,
Thank
thank
you,
you for
Kelly.
that.
Thank
And I
you.
know you've done work, boy. That's wonderful. Continue to do that, right? We're gonna break these curse. We're gonna break this curse.
And through this talking about it and this healing and this unpacking it, now you're opening yourself up for the relationship that you truly deserve and desire. And that's what we're talking about when we're talking about manifesting a joyous relationship, because we have to do the self-work.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if our partner changes. It doesn't matter if we switch into another state. If we're not doing the work, we're going to still keep attracting the same thing.
That's
All
right. That's right.
All right, Lisa. So tell
And
us
we have
how.
another.
Oh, one more comment.
Yep. Dennis saying, I'm ready for this, and so is Darlene. I am ready. Deborah, Blackman Parish. Don't know what was happening, but I am just now able to comment. No matter what, I was able to listen and absorb. Sometimes that's it.
Amen.
Amen.
All right. Thank you, Deborah, for
Right.
joining us.
Yes,
thank you. So we were doing the final three, and I think the first one was, you know what? Go back and watch it. All right. Watch the replay. All right. So let's go, Lisa. Let's talk about how doing that, not seeking outside validation, has changed you, and now you have the relationship. Let's talk about that, how that works.
Yeah, let's talk about this new relationship.
Yes, yes. Well, one of the key things that I accepted and learned about myself, first, I used to be kind of upset or just uncomfortable with the type of person that I was. I was very forgiving. I was very nice. I was very, I was very nice. And I took a lot of stuff.
That's putting it
I
mildly.
took a lot of stuff. But in my spiritual relationship and learning the word of God, and it talked about, God is not mocked, whatsoever man soweth, that he shall also reap. And, let this mind be in you, which was also in Christ Jesus. And, how God loves us and what that love really looks like for us, and learning to love myself, as God loves me in a single relationship, making that pretty much the foundation of who I am. So I accepted the fact that I love people and I love them hard. So I realized that, everybody's not my friend that says I'm cute. Everybody doesn't mean well that, says, hey, you're awesome, and learn what my boundaries were and what they are, but yet still being my true self. I'm a fairly nice person. I think, I think that, and I know that, and it's been validated. Actually, it's been validated first through the word of God, but it also is wherever I go. People generally think I am a loving person. So taking that, I sold a lot of love is what my point is. And so I would speak a lot of those things that be not as though they were, even in an abusive relationship, grounding myself in prayer, saying what I desired for my husband. And again, you can want all you want to, but if that other person isn't aligning with what you're speaking, again, for me, I had to question whether or not that was really a valid, healthy relationship going forward. And, could not change that person. You know, your prayers cannot change somebody else if they don't want to be changed. So accepting that and growing in that knowledge as a single person. When I came into a relationship with my now husband, knowing that he values me exactly how I am, he doesn't expect me to change. He told me that day one, I don't feel uncomfortable being my authentic self, no matter what that looks like. If you know me, you know, I can be silly, I can be serious, you know, you can take every aspect of me. I can minister to you the word of God. I can pray for you. I can go into the closet and war room and, you know, wrestle with your demons and make sure you're free. You know, but the point is he accepts all of me. And that was one of the things he told me day one, during our first date. He said, just from our conversation alone, he knew that I was his wife. He told me that day too. He knew I was his wife, you know, and it was the way I valued. It was based on things I had gone through and how I actually addressed those. I used to be kind of embarrassed to share my story, you know, because, you know, sometimes you think about what other people think. But when I came into the knowledge of myself, I didn't care because I love the Lord. He brought me out for a reason, and it was to tell my story. And so however many people that can help, however many people that can save, I am all about God's business. And so me being my authentic self, meaning that I am a transparent person, you know, I don't care. I'm going to be me. If I pray, I pray. You know, at work, I pray. And people know that I'm a praying woman. And, you know, they may talk about it one moment, but when they have a issue going on, they know where to come. They're coming into my office asking me for prayer, you know, so, you know, so I am.
Do you have a tip jar on your desk? You put a
I don't have a
tip
tip.
desk.
I don't have a tip jar.
We're gonna get since we know how to be silly, we're gonna be like, all right, prayer tip jar. So when folks come in, you're gonna say, is it business or is it prayer? I'm gonna not take up my collection before we get started.
and see, that's the thing. That's the thing about God and my relationship with him. You know, I know that my treasure is with him. You know, if I get it here in the natural, yes, I do get some things as a result of, again, the law of attraction.
That's right.
You know, the good things when you sow with the right motive and
That's
with
right.
a good heart, it comes back to you the same way. So who I have as a husband now is what I sowed into my relationship. In spite of what I dealt with, in spite of what I went through. And yes, in making some hard decisions, I had to kind of go against the grain in order to be true to myself, to stand up for myself, but I'm still who I am. So, yeah.
You did not lose yourself.
I did not lose
all of that.
Yes.
So and that goes to the law of compensation. There
Yes.
you go, right? What you put in, you shall get out.
That's right. You reap what you sow. Yes.
That's right. No overflowing. People tell me, I want my harvest. Well, what did you put in?
That's right.
You don't get a harvest if you haven't sown anything. If you haven't put anything in. All right. So are there any comments, any concerns, anything? Anybody want to drop some more gems? Anybody want to add to it?
Don saying very demure.
Mm-hmm.
Dennis saying you can't change anyone. It starts with ourself first.
That's right.
Kelly saying amen to that.
Yes.
Darlene Edwards saying OMG, she is my sister. We have so much in common.
All right. That's what we are. That's what the community is about.
Yeah.
Don saying tips are taxable.
But donations, hey.
Right. You got an NFP. Right. There you go.
Yes.
Right.
University NFP.
Oh, that's interesting. It's interesting. I'm going to tell this. A few years back, I had asked Lisa. I said, "Man, Lisa, would you come on and speak about, what you went through?" Because I didn't know. I just knew that you had gotten a divorce and stuff like that. And
Right.
you said, "I'm okay, but my ex isn't, and I need to give him time." And I'm like, "Why are you worried about your ex if you ain't with him no more?" I'm like, okay, fine. We're gonna let it cook a little longer. But now that you took it off the eye and it is cooked.
Crock pot.
Oh, you crock pot, yeah. She crock pot that thing for a few years, didn't she?
All right. That crock pot works. It works because it's still cooking, but it don't burn. There you go.
So you let that thing cook, and now this is what we get. So I thank you for that.
All right, so I am going to, since I did not give the tips on how to actually some solutions, and like I said, there's no one size fits all, but these are some solutions that you could apply, right? So we're going back to spirituality, the first one, number 5. And so it's have intentional conversations about your core values.
Right.
So where do you align? Where do you differ? Have you have open conversations? Discuss these things with your partner, right? You want to share what do you want as an individual and what do you want to share as a couple with your values. So what matters most to you, right? What matters to you most when it comes to spirituality? How about emotionally? How about morally, right? Because sometimes you can align spiritually and then they doing some unmoral stuff and you like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Like, okay, this ain't lining up. So aligning your values strengthens your connection. Another thing could be create a shared spiritual ritual. I know Jason and I, we meditate every morning.
Yes.
We pray together. So we have a prayer call at 6. We got a prayer call at 6:30. We got a prayer call at 7. And then we do our own individual work. So we do it with other people and we do it together because we know that it's important for us. Now, we do our work separately too.
Yes.
I mean, I'm praying all day long.
All day.
So, I'm just going to, real quick before I go into these, I don't know, again, we don't know who's watching, but I do want to say, Bobby, if you're watching, please put a heart or say something, comment, because I just want you to know that I'm wearing my bright red lipstick tonight. So Bobby talked with me one time about a live, and she said, I don't think she heard anything on the live except for I mentioned her husband and that I had on red lipstick, right? So everything else was completely oblivious. She was like, she mentioned Richard and how great he was, and then her red lipstick. So, Bobby, I wore my red lipstick for you tonight. All right. So, shout out to Bobby.
Woo, Bobby. Bobby.
Bobby Nicole, there you go. She was like, girl, that red lipstick, all we could see was that red lipstick. They had their own conversation talking about my red lipstick. All right.
That was quite funny.
So, all right, the next thing is respect each other's beliefs and differences. So, if you and your partner have different spiritual beliefs, practices, or practice mutual respect and curiosity rather than just being judgmental. Right. Find a way to honor each other's perspective without needing to completely agree with whatever, if there's some differences. And if you can't, then we want you to seek some guidance. Seek guidance when you need it.
Yep.
We don't know it all. We can always ask for help. So the second one, which is number 6, the reason number 6, which was, what was reason number 6, somebody? Come on, Lisa, what was reason number 6?
It was that
one.
past traumas.
Past traumas. There you go. Past traumas. So identify and acknowledge your triggers. What past experiences still affect you today? Recognize the moments when past wounds are influencing your current reactions. Awareness is the first step to change. So Vicki said, how do we, accept it? Awareness.
Yes.
Have safe, open conversations with your partner about these traumas so that they can support you rather than triggering you. Share your experience with your partner in a way that promotes understanding rather than blame. We always talk about make sure you're using I statements to express your feelings without creating defensiveness. Seek healing through self-work. I always believe in introspection. We got to look at ourselves. We got to do our self-work. We got to self-improvement is important. You cannot manifest a joyous relationship if you sitting there in sad land. Nobody's going to bring you up. You got to do your own work.
That's right.
We can help you, but you got to do your own work. So seek healing through self-work, journaling, therapy, or coaching. Coaching like what we do. Growth is an inside job. Journaling, meditation, and therapy can help you process past hurt so that you no longer control, so that you can learn how to control your emotional responses. All right, another one is reprogramming your limiting beliefs. Sometimes we believe what we believe because somebody else has told us that, or the pastor has told us that, or our best friend told us that. So we have this limiting belief that we can't break free from whatever we need to break free from, but you can. So start replacing old narratives of pain and put in new beliefs of love, healing, and trust, just as Lisa did. You can do that through affirmations, visualizations, intentional mindset shifts, or replace old narratives. As Lisa said, she was sowing the seeds of what she wanted in a husband, regardless of what was going on. Right? When we talk about that, change the narrative. We are in control of the story we tell ourselves.
Yeah.
All right?
Yes.
Go ahead, Lisa.
Okay. Yep. So I wanted to share because you had mentioned about journaling and writing. And so part of my own therapy was writing poetry. And that evolved into spoken word poetry. And so I found that I was mostly writing about the trauma. I was mostly writing about the healing of the trauma and becoming the confident person that I could see myself becoming. And the more I shared that, the more women became healed. They were touched. They would come and tell me, "Oh my God, you were speaking to me." And I was like, "Wow, I didn't know I could do that with poetry," But it wasn't until there was one lady. Her name was Michelle, and she was a liturgical dancer, and I did praise dancing as well, but I was mostly being booked for poetry and spoken word. And she told me, she said, "You have prophetic poetry." And I'm like, "Oh my goodness, here we go being all super spiritual,
But somebody can sound like she's super spiritual.
Yeah, and I am super spiritual. So she was like, "Woo, woo, way up," took that to a whole nother level for me. And so it's like I didn't understand what she said until I sat down and started really reading my own poetry versus just learning it to perform it, to share it. And I sat down and started reading my poetry. And then when I recorded an audio, I started listening to my poetry, and it would bring me to tears. And I can say that so many of my poems now, I'm living that life. I'm living that confident life, that I would speak in my poetry about valuing myself and projecting my self-worth and, establishing my own boundaries and establishing my own standards, and I'm living that, and it's non-negotiable. And I was just like, oh my gosh, so I just want to point out how important, journaling and how powerful journaling and writing can be. So you can write your own narrative while you're speaking it and trusting and believing for it, and you can manifest it that way.
Absolutely. I think journaling is so important, and everybody can't do it, but do whatever you can do. Yes. All right. So now we're going into seeking outside approval, validation. So one thing is to shift from approval seeking to self-trust. Build confidence in your decisions and values instead of looking for reassurance from your partner or others. All right. Anything you want to say?
No, go ahead, man.
Okay. All right. Another thing is strengthen your personal and individual identity. Have passions, goals, and self-care routines outside of your relationship. That was important for me. I had to step out from being everybody's everything and find myself. So a healthy relationship is built between two whole individuals.
Come on.
When I had given so much of myself and I was like, okay, I'm drained, I had to find a new revival in order for our relationship to continue, because I was looking for him to give me what I needed, and what I needed was really to pay attention to what brought me joy, who I was, to get the joy back in me, not from him, but from me finding my own identity. Yeah. So I had to explore hobbies. I started working out by myself. That was a big thing. I'm close to my sisters. I'm close to my family. Everything I've always done in my entire life was with my friends or with my husband, then with my sisters, with my children. I was always with somebody. I just dreaded going someplace by myself. I had to start working out by myself. And at first it was just, I had to find myself. Come on, Tina, you can do it. Yeah. I went and started working out by myself. My daughter was in gymnastics for 17 hours a day, and I had nothing to do. I was like, I'm going to start. And I loved it. I found myself. It gave me joy. And I loved the appearance that I was seeing. It gave me clarity. You got rid of stress. And just from that, so it says, explore different hobbies that you haven't done. What are you passionate about? Even if you're not passionate, try it anyway. Personal growth outside of your relationship to ensure your fulfillment, because external validation, you don't need it, because when you're confident in yourself, when you love yourself, when you are happy with yourself, you don't need that external validation. All right, practice self-validation. Yeah. So as Lisa,
mirror talk,
mirror work. Get that right, Dennis. Compliment yourself. We cannot, it's so hard for people to compliment themselves. Or for me, it used to be hard for me to receive compliments. So compliment yourself. Acknowledge your own growth. Celebrate your wins. That's another thing. I used to always kind of downplay my wins, because I didn't want people to, feel like I was arrogant or something. Yeah. So I used to really downplay my wins. And I had to start saying, you know what? if you don't celebrate them, God gonna stop giving them to you. So I'm gonna celebrate my win. So I remember when I got my bachelor's degree, I was like, oh, it's no big thing, no big thing. And I really downplayed it. Everybody's like, that's a huge thing, but it wasn't a big thing to me, and so I downplayed it. But baby, when I got my master's, I felt like I was on cloud nine. I was so freaking happy. I literally, and I got it in my adult years, but I felt like a teenager. I was just.
And you act like one too.
Yeah, man, I was like,
act like a little old teenager.
My husband, I ain't gonna tell you what he said. He said, "You wait till you get grown to have college friends."
Coming home, this my college friend.
He was like, "You wait till you get after 50, over 50 to
I
have
said,
college
girl,
friends."
you could be that girl's mom.
I was the age of her mom, but she was the same age as my daughter. But I was so freaking. I celebrate. I said, and I started celebrating myself. I really did. So, I just started the things that bring me joy. I can still, I'm not a person that needs a lot of stuff, but I said I'm going to celebrate my wins.
Yes.
All right, without needing outside approval.
That's right.
All right, so practice gratitude for yourself. Acknowledge y'all. You say, oh, wait, I'm doing good. Recognize your strength. It's okay for people to compliment you and you say thank you.
Yep.
I used to feel like, oh, kind of shy down or whatever, but just say thank you. Appreciate who you are as a person. And then check your relationship patterns. What are you doing that are you seeking validation from your partner? So you need to be if you need to be constantly reassured, then maybe you need to recognize that, redirect that energy inward.
Yeah.
So seek your own compliments. Talk to yourself. Look in the mirror. Say you love you. Look in your mirror. Tell yourself the things that you want your mate to tell you, or your prospective mate. Right? So you have to know what love looks like before you can get it.
You
if
have
you don't
to
know
what it looks like.
Yeah, you got to.
You have to know what it looks like.
All right. So
Yes.
that's all I have to say. Anything you got to say?
I know. Check the comments. We got anything in the comments?
Any comments? Dun dun dun.
Vicky said, I'm sowing good seeds. Saying, I love this episode. Thank you, Jason, Tina, brother Jason, and Lisa.
Oh, thank you, Dennis. Thank you all for that.
Manifested it. Saying, come through, Tina.
Yes.
And right on, I was that person who was a people pleaser.
Oh, yeah. That's a whole nother episode, y'all.
Yeah, that's a whole
episode.
other episode.
But guess what? Now that we are aware, we can change.
That's
we can
right.
change. So as we close out this wonderful 1 hour episode that has now run over an hour, but that's okay.
Well,
that's
we got
okay.
a lot to share.
That's right. We got a lot to share.
We're dropping some truth.
All right, we're going to go to wow. And that wraps up our 7 reasons. 7 reason series. If this episode resonated with you in any way, don't stop here. Take action. If you haven't grabbed your copy of our book, Manifest
Go to manifestajoyfulledrelationship.com to get your copy.
Start transforming yourself and your relationship today. All right, you can get that at Manifest a Joy-Filled Relationship. And guess what, guys? For people who have the book and you really do some real work, you can get the downloadable workbook, Manifest a Joy-Filled Relationship Workbook. You can get that from our website and explore these principles as we talked about, law of cause and effect, law of attraction, what it really means, not what you hear these people talking about, I can attract $1 million. If I could, it would have failed by now, right?
Okay.
We got to do some work. All right, the law of attraction, law of compensation, the law of gender, all these laws these principles that
learn what they are.
Yes,
learn how you can change your life.
Okay, learn it for yourself and create a loving, joyous, and lasting love affair.
That's right. Yes, and don't forget to check out our 3-day self-paced downloadable masterclass where we guide you step by step to transforming your relationship in just 3 days. Or you can just head over to our website, legendaryrelationship.com, to claim your spot. Make this year the year of inspired action. Go say yes to your dreams and your relationship goals.
That's right. So until next time, remember, love is a choice.
Yes.
And you deserve the choice of a joy-filled relationship. Y'all got that? You deserve it.
Now, do me a favor. Go over to YouTube. If you're on Facebook, go to YouTube and follow our channel over there, Legendary Relationship on YouTube. Or if not, you could just you could follow here, hit follow, subscribe. And so you won't miss any upcoming episodes. You don't want to miss because, I think Lisa done kicked it off this year. So we're just going to pick this baton up and continue to run with it. So just, hey, pass this along, share with people. People need this. We're out here hurting and we don't know where to go. This is good information, right? So just Just come in, get what you can, and then go out and make your relationship better.
So we'll see you next Friday at 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time or 7 o'clock Eastern Time, where we will be talking about why can't I get what I need and want.
Oh,
all right.
Oh, man, you dropping some, man. Woo.
All right.
All right, so if you find yourself in the crossroads in your relationship and you need or you feel you don't know where to go, you can give us a call. You can contact us at legendaryrelationship.com, or you can send us an email at info@legendaryrelationship.com.
And with that, this ends another fantastic episode of Love and Beyond the I Do podcast. We are the dynamic duo in relationships, and as always,
we're in it to win it. Till next week, guys.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Lovin' Beyond the I Do podcast. Head over to iTunes to subscribe and leave a review. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Legendary Relationship, or visit our website at legendaryrelationship.com. Till next time, remember to make every day count.